Howdy, I'm the Partisan Ranger, back here again with another video. And today, I'm going to talk about a little bit more political of a topic than I originally thought it was going to be. But it's the concept of historical literacy. The idea that your basic grasp of history itself. And this is an important topic to me because history is an important topic, not just to me, but in general. And someone's knowledge of history can shape how they perceive just about everything that there is in this world. And it's especially disappointing to encounter people who are historically illiterate. They have basically no idea about most of the important events that shape the very world they live in. Something as simple as you trying to talk about the Franco-Prussian War and that person's first response being, what the hell is the Franco-Prussian War? There are just certain events in history that most people are not aware of, and to be honest, it's not necessarily their fault that they're ignorant. It's more to do with the fact that there really isn't a focus or a perceived need for people to understand history, even to a very basic degree. And as an American, our education system when it comes to history is not exactly ideal, especially in the sense that it is more focused on the myth of our history, the rough idea of its core values, rather than the actual facts themselves. And the issue with this is that it leads to people who accept what they're told at face value rather than doing their own research and coming to their own personal conclusions about how certain events of history should be interpreted. Something as simple as understanding that there was a great amount of debate within our nation's original government, within the Continental Congress, as to how our nation should be organized, how it should be run, how the government should function. And without the context being taught that there was a debate at all about whether or not the United States should be a democracy or a republic. More precisely, it was originally a republic, after all. Without that basic context, that there was ever anyone who questioned the idea of whether or not we should be a republic, it changes how we perceive that period of history. Now, most Americans would consider it anathema for anyone to have ever thought America should be anything except what it is. And it goes much deeper than just how we perceive politics from over 2 centuries ago. It goes into a troublesome area where, as I said before, people will accept what they're told at face value without ever performing their own research. So it makes it difficult to talk about actual important events in history, the rise and fall of entire ideologies, vast wars with consequences and implications that we still deal with to this very day. And it's genuinely depressing, because there are people whose understandings of events are incredibly shallow, and they have no urge to ever learn more than what they're told about anything. It's not just history. And it's kind of what inspired me to make this particular video, just so that I could get out the one idea that I need to convey to everyone. Nobody, except you, is responsible for your personal knowledge of the world you live in. Nobody has the responsibility to learn more or to teach you more except yourself. Nobody is ever responsible for you being a wiser and better human being. That responsibility is entirely yours. And it is a responsibility we all share. We all must aspire to be wiser and more intelligent people. We must learn as much as we can about the world that we live in, everything that has happened and everything that is happening right now. It's up to us to learn more. And nobody else has that duty to teach us. And this may seem a little bit of a idea that is contrary to our current system, where most people are reliant on a government institution to teach them what they need to know about the world, and they are being failed by those institutions, for the plain and simple fact that those institutions are government run. They are on a government payroll, and governments have agendas. And so if a government institution whose sole purpose is to teach you about anything, to teach you about any subject, not just history, when they leave something out, they have left it out deliberately. When they teach you a very vague and very shallow interpretation of a very important historical event, that is a deliberate decision on the part of a government institution. They want you to interpret it the way that they want you to. And this is very important, because when we stop asking questions, when we stop trying to learn more, we become easily manipulated, easily controlled. And when we stop drawing our own conclusions that are independent from what we're told we're supposed to believe about anything, then it really doesn't matter what we think. Because without that backing of our knowledge plus our perception, our interpretation of that knowledge, we're entirely reliant on opinion, backed up by nothing. And there's many a controversial topic that could be used as an example of it. Somebody could look at the American Civil War and still look at all the horrors of slavery, look at all the atrocities of the war, and still, from their own personal interpretations of the historical events, come to the conclusion that the Confederacy was still right to secede, even if they were wrong in every single one of their reasonings behind seceding. But whether or not you come to that conclusion on your own is dependent upon your own reading of history. You have to have actually read something about that time period, actually read about the war, and read about the circumstances that caused it for you to draw any conclusion about the war. And when you do not actively seek out as much knowledge about the topic as possible, your conclusions may be drawn from either a lack of information or inaccurate information. That's why it is so important to seek out as many sources as possible to get as broad and as deep of an understanding as possible. And this does not happen in institutions owned by governments, especially when it's the governments who won the wars that they're teaching you about. And perhaps it was because I was raised to always study any particular argument or any particular event of history from both perspectives, from both sides. And with that understanding, with the perspectives of both sides being made aware or being illuminated to me, draw a conclusion from that. I choose what I believe from what I have seen, from what I have learned about any given scenario. And without this, as I said before, we become easily manipulated. We can be told exactly how we're supposed to feel about anything that happens in our lives, and if we have no context beyond what we're told, we have no reason to not believe it. And this isn't necessarily a condemnation of people who are willfully ignorant, but willful ignorance is a tremendous issue that plagues the modern world. We have so many people who are convinced of their own righteousness simply because nobody actually has the information at hand to challenge them. Someone says something stupid, you only know it's stupid because you are aware that there is an alternative to that. And that awareness is the most important thing. We have to be self-educated to an extent. We have to learn as much as we can so that we cannot be manipulated. If we come to a conclusion about anything, it is ours, not something that was handed down to us by those who perceive themselves as our betters. And unfortunately, that's probably not going to change. One unfortunate observation of history is that a great many people will remain ignorant because it's easier. It is easier to just go through life accepting everything you see as you're told and delving no deeper than that. And for most people, it will never be necessary to be incredibly knowledgeable about history. And in a way, it doesn't necessarily matter if the information will be useful to you. What matters is that you understand it and are even just aware of it. Because even in the day-to-day, it will be useful to have read a book about politics in ancient Rome and be watching a political debate and see the exact same stratagems and tactics of politicians played out before your very eyes, and you'll have that little thought in the back of your head that goes, I've seen this before, even if I don't remember from where. And I think that, even in that smallest way, will help influence how you perceive the world around you. If you are aware that humanity has always been like this, and always will be like this, it provides a level of comfort and understanding, but it also provides a level of wariness. Some people have always been complacent. Some people have always been ambitious. Some people will rise to power while other movements fail. And humanity does have the advantage that we've been writing stuff down for a very long time. And because of that, we have the beautiful opportunity to be aware of humanity's patterns. And while history does not repeat itself, it does love to rhyme. This has been the Partisan Ranger. Have a good day.